Men don't want to marry anymore because the risk outweighs the benefits. There's a risk that comes with marriage that essentially only benefits a woman. A man marries you and can only hope that one day you don't wake up and say, I feel like I don't love you anymore and I want to leave and you can't do anything about it. According to ASA, 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women. Among college-educated women, it jumps to 90%.
Did you know that loyalty is a masculine value? Women do not consider it nearly as important as men do. Women value practicality, expediency, being considerate. But loyalty, that strong, unwavering commitment to a person or an idea, the sort of thing that makes a man tear up as he says, I'm ready to die for my country or my beliefs or my family. I'm ready to sacrifice myself for my values. That's masculine. A man thinks, my loyalty shows my integrity, my consistency. It makes me dependable and honorable. To a lot of women, that just seems like airy-fairy philosophical nonsense. A man might think that it's romantic to stay loyal right to the end, but women are not romantic. Women are practical. When a woman is faced with a difficult situation, her thought isn't, well, what is honorable? Her thought is, what is convenient? In the 4 years that the Nazis occupied France, do you think all of the French women were just sitting at home with their legs crossed? While all the French men were imprisoned or on the country's front lines trying to defend against these invaders, do you think that the French women showed loyalty? No chance. There were a huge number of French women who threw themselves sexually at the Nazi occupiers. Despite more than 2 million Frenchmen being held in prisoner of war camps, the birth rate boomed in 1942, with an estimated 200,000 children born to Franco-German couples. Up to 30% of births were illegitimate in some parts of Paris. Look at these pictures showing French women living it up with their Nazi occupier guard boyfriends. I know that it's uncomfortable to stare directly into female nature, especially for anyone who still holds on to the myth that women are morally superior angelic beings. But they're not. They are human. They make mistakes. They act selfishly. They have flaws. If you're going to date a woman and then one day marry her, risking half of your assets and access to your children, make sure you're doing your due diligence on her character. Because if you are counting on her loyalty for keeping the two of you together, then you might be in for a very rude awakening. Check out these poll results from asking 2,000 women. 43% of them have a backup man if their current relationship ends. 8 out of 10 are in contact with that backup man. 15% said that their feelings were stronger for the backup man. 50% said that their partner was aware of the backup man. 1 out of 5 admitted that the backup man was a friend of their partner. And 1 out of 10 said that the backup man had already confessed their undying love. It's not just in relationships too. You can see women's lack of loyalty show up in the workplace. Women have steadily job hopped at a higher rate than men since 1986. In the 5 years following graduation, for those who completed college between 2006 and 2010, women held 3 jobs compared to men's 2.71. For those who graduated between 1986 and 1990, women held 1.64 jobs in the 5 years after college compared to men's 1.57. Recent LinkedIn data shows that job transitions, and that includes moving to a better paid role or out of the market altogether, have surged for women in 2021. Transitions for women were up 54% year on year compared to men with 46. Loyalty is gendered. It shows up statistically. But why are women like this in their jobs and in their relationships? Why is it if a problem arises, a woman's instinct is to just look for an alternative instead of to stay, to show loyalty, to try and fix that problem? I know I'm making massive generalizations. Of course, there are exceptions. I'm talking about a trend. But a large part of it is just that women are emotional and they make decisions emotionally. Because emotions change and shift all of the time, it means that women are making different decisions constantly. Men find it easier to be consistent because we just ignore our emotions. We repress them, and I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but it does make it easier to be loyal, to stay true to our commitments. That's how we as men, we show honor, we stay true to what we've said, to what we've committed to. But for women, their sense of honor and staying true means staying true to themselves, to their own emotional experience. She thinks, well, I was angry at him. I wanted to dump him, and so I did. That was me staying true to myself. It doesn't matter if I committed to be with him, committed to being in a relationship with him. I had to be honorable. I had to show integrity to myself, to my emotional experience. Or what else could I do? I developed feelings for somebody else. That's how I emotionally felt. I had to act on that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be true to myself.
Your last breakup, was it your fault or theirs?
Mine. I cheated on him, but I broke up with him. So the first time he found out and forgave me, and then when I did it twice more after that, I worked with one of his friends and they found out, and they'd kind of said to me, well look, you need to make sure you don't do it again, and I couldn't promise myself I wasn't going to do it again, which is why I thought, well, I'm better off just ending it.
It just boggles the male brain. You can't promise that you're not going to do it again. Why not? That's easy. Just promise not to do it. But no, for a woman, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Who knows what she's going to decide? Because it's emotional. She has to stay true to herself. Making emotional decisions goes hand in hand with impulsivity. Women making choices without fully thinking through the consequences. Perhaps it's not politically correct to say this, but this is the truth as I see it. Women are protected from the consequences of their decisions in a way that men are just not. If a man fails, that's on him. He has to pick himself up. You're a man. You made your bed, now you lie in it. Don't expect any help. If a woman fails, you can guarantee she's got support, she's got sympathy. She'll have an army of white knight men simping for her. From a young age, boys know that they are walking on a tight wire of life, and if they fall, it's onto hard concrete. For little girls, they know that the ground is cushioned. And as such, women are empowered to make more impulsive decisions because they know they're not going to have to face the same consequences. There's only so far they can fall, and there's always going to be other people around to help them get back up. But you can also explain women's lack of loyalty in terms of simple greed. When it comes to employment and the workplace, both men and women will feel motivated to move on to find a better job if they can have better pay, better benefits. That kind of greed is understandable. It's like rational self-interest. But greed expresses itself from women in romantic relationships at a far greater rate than it does for men. That's what branch swinging is. It's women looking out for a better deal, being ready to dump their man the moment that a better option presents itself. But to really dig into why this is gendered, why men and women place such a different emphasis on loyalty, we need to look back at our ancestral roots and look at the evolutionary pressures that were put on men and women that gave rise to these values. Why do men value loyalty and women value expediency? Let's do men first, okay? So back in caveman days, all of the dangerous stuff fell on men to sort out. The survival of the tribe, it fell on men's shoulders. Hunting big game, fighting off predators, protecting against like neighboring tribes that want to go to war. It was men who did these tasks, and most importantly, they had to work together. They had to cooperate, because if you're hunting a mammoth or you're organizing a war defense for an upcoming battle, you need to work as a team. You need to coordinate. It's not a solitary task. You've got to work as a single unit, and trust and loyalty is extremely important. You need to be able to depend upon your brother next to you doing what he said he was going to do. You can see in such a high stakes environment why loyalty is such a value that's important to men. Your worth as a man, your integrity, the degree to which people can depend upon you. It's all there. Loyalty contains trust, reliability. As men, we follow other men who show these traits. We admire them. We trust them. Over countless generations, evolution reinforced this. But women had different priorities. They had to ensure the survival of children. And so, given that that was their role, practical considerations always came first. If you ask a mother, what would you do for your child? A lot of them will say almost anything. Almost anything, right? Like that's how much she takes her role of protecting her children seriously. And so what does that entail in real world terms? Well, imagine a scenario where all of the men, including the father of your child, are killed by the neighboring war band. And so all of these enemies come in, or they take over the camp, and suddenly, they're ready to cause damage. As a mother, you're terrified for the safety of your child, and you think, okay, well, the smartest way for me to protect my children is to sleep with one of these enemy soldiers, become his woman, and in so doing, try and, convince him to protect these children. When it comes down to it, women see those practical considerations as a lot more important than any abstract notions of loyalty. But however it may have began, do not for a moment think that all instances of women being disloyal can be justified by some noble sacrifice like protecting your child. Absolutely not. I'm just saying because of the evolutionary pressures of how things used to be, women had to take practical considerations into account first. They had to think of the children, and as such, the more abstract concepts of loyalty, they had to take second place. And because loyalty was a virtue that was never highly prioritized, this has had a flow-on effect into women today. Monkey branching, divorcing, quitting jobs, changing their belief systems to fit into a new social group. All kinds of expedient behavior will be shown by women because they don't value loyalty. Not in the same way that men do. It's not a value that they hold so strongly. They're going to do what's practically convenient, and that makes sense to them. They see men who are willing to die for a cause or a belief, and that seems moronic. That seems childish to women. And even though the evolutionary pressures for each gender explains why this is, this does not justify ruthlessly selfish behavior from women. In fact, I'm going to spend the rest of the video explaining why you need to specifically look for a woman who has a great deal of loyalty. If you want any chance of your relationship succeeding, that's an absolute must. So what are the ways that you can test a woman's loyalty? What are some signs that you can look for? When you're observing her behavior in the beginning of a relationship, what is it that you want to see? I answer all of those questions in the full-length version of this video, which is available right now on Patreon.